Yeah.
Okay, so let's pick up a little something we started last week, but just to reorient us here. And this is about Baidul. When he began writing, or it's about Baba to start, but then it will be. When he began writing, Baba would assemble all the men to hear his verses. Although they were all, it is about Baidul. Although they were awful, Baba praised his efforts to the heavens and encouraged him to write more. Jaffrabadi was therefore under the impression that he was becoming an accomplished poet. On the evening of 27th July, when he was returning in a tram to the Manzil from his job, his mind was so engrossed in his newest composition that his intoxication carried him several stations beyond his destination. When Baba found out about it, he gathered the men and advised Jaffrabadi, continue writing poems in your spare time, but for God's sake, don't do it on your job or in the tram. Baba then told the other men, Jaffrabadi is about to become a famous poet. A suitable nom de plume should be found. Many pen names were suggested, but Ghani's was approved. Ghani said, Vidal was a well-known Persian poet, but since Jaffrabadi's couplets are far superior to his, we should call him Baidul. Everyone liked the name, which in Persian means marble, and Baba instructed that henceforth Jaffrabadi should be known as Aga Baidul, the great Baidul. Baidul then earnestly requested of Baba, when I start writing poetry, the onrush of thoughts is so great that I cannot cope with it. I pray to you to instruct someone to write down what comes from my lips at that very instant. Otherwise, it will be lost forever. Since Ghani had thought up his new name, Baba appointed him as Baidul's secretary with instructions that whenever Baidul felt inspired, Ghani should immediately write down his poetic inspirations. On one occasion, Ghani was in the toilet, and Baidul went there and started knocking on the door. Ghani, come out immediately, he said urgently. The muse is inspiring me. If you don't come out soon, I will not be able to recover all these wonderful lines. He was so insistent that Ghani had to quickly button his trousers and write down Baidul's spontaneous creation. Ghani related this incident to Baba, who was much amused. Baba's younger cousin, Aspandiar, was deeply devoted to him. He was the son of Marwan's maternal aunt Pilamasi. A few years after her death in 1917, Aspandiar had moved to Quetta in northern India, where he was working in a restaurant owned by Gulmai's nephew, Rusi Jahangir Irani. Aspandiar's father, Masaji, was staying with the master at Manzil Amim, and his sister Naja had been sent by Baba to stay in Quetta also.
Okay, here we go. See? Baba
Right,
help
why don't
us.
you go ahead and read here?
Who, me?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. 326, year 1922. I have already explained to you that besides the viewpoints of religion, study, meditation, and yoga, the early hours are important from the spiritual point of view as well. It was between these hours that Baba Jan gave me the experience of truth, and it was also at this time when Upasni Maharaj brought me up out of the ocean. And it will be between these hours that the circle too will get realization. But now the question arises as to how to pass the time after getting up so early. Certainly not in lolling about or playing cards, draughts like checkers, or chit-chatting. It is not becoming for us to do such things as we are following the path. So the best way of passing the time will be this. From 4 to 5 a.m., all should attend to their daily necessities and take cold baths. Between 5 and 6 a.m., all should engage themselves in repeating prayers such as namaz for Mohammedans Sadrakasti for Parsis, puja for Hindus, and devote the major portion of the time to repeating the name of God according to your respective religion, like Allah, Ram, or Yazdan. This repetition is to be done mentally while sitting in one fixed position. Although the repetition is to be carried on in the mind without moving the tongue for lips, beware that your eyes do not close. This is one of the yogic practices. For a fakir, it is unnecessary to close either his eyes, nose, or mouth, nor is it necessary for him to follow religious rituals or other practices. Once you sit down, stick to that position without changing until the bell rings for breakfast at 6 a.m. Go ahead.
Footnote, a ship's gong was kept at the manzil and used to summon the mandali.
Oh, okay. Keep repeating the divine name in your mind with a free heart and without thinking of the time. Baba then asked each one which name of God he would repeat and in which position he would sit. After everyone answered, Baba declared there should be no change at all for the following 10 months, either in the repetition of the name of God or in the posture adopted. He then concluded, "This is my first spiritual instruction to you. Do not fail to carry it out." Although the master had pointed out that this practice was only a form of worshiping God, a few of the men entertained hopes of having a spiritual experience while meditating. Since he had remarked some time ago, each man will have different experiences in September. Their hope for a glimpse of divinity proved a great incentive to eagerly fulfill the order. Baba knows what to do. From Monday, 2nd October, all the men awoke at 4 a.m. and queued in front of the 3 bathrooms. The brisk cold bath made them wide awake, and they sat still for 1 hour in worship. Exactly at 6 o'clock, the breakfast going was sounded, and they went to have tea. This turned into the morning routine, although there were some humorous incidents. Beramji would awaken them at 4 a.m., but he himself would be half asleep while holding a kerosene lantern. Jalbai, as Baba's brother, was cold, could not bear the cold baths, so he would pretend to be taking a bath by splashing water on the bathroom walls.
That was Jalbai.
Yeah, Jalbai.
Yeah.
The footnote just says Bai means brother.
Oh, Bai means
Right.
brother. Yeah. So Bhai, Jal, Bai. Yeah. Okay. Ghani also detested the freezing bath in the early morning. His poli was to enter the bathroom and mutter some sounds as if he was bathing, as he poured water on the floor, never taking off his clothes. Baba's humor. Gustaji was, excuse me, Gustaji was the only one exempt from these morning practices, as he was responsible for having breakfast ready by 6 a.m. sharp. The following Saturday, Baba awakened everyone an hour earlier, and Upasni Maharaj's arti was sung. Thereafter, the men cleaned the backyard of the manzil so the space could be utilized for sports, exercising, and recreation. The area was full of garbage and rubble, which the men scrapped into what? Gamela. Gamelas or iron pans. Gamela, iron pans, yeah, I know what it is, yeah. And dumped over the wall.
Yeah.
The work of leveling the ground continued for several days until the yard was smooth and hard. Ghani was usually feeling sleepy and had never in his life done such menial labor. He resorted to the following stratagem to escape this early morning labor. When Baba was standing on the veranda overseeing the work, Ghani would loudly chant this song as he picked up a gamela or pulled a leveling roller. Oh, Shirin, trouble not Farhad to tunnel the mountain. He is your lover, not a hired laborer. That's Ghani, right? He's very academic. At first, the other men could not understand why Ghani, who was the laziest of the lot, was singing with so much gusto. But when he kept repeating the same couplet about the doomed Persian lovers, they all caught on and began laughing, as did Baba, who then called Ghani before him and told the Mandali, look at the face and features of this Farhad. Is this my lover? What luck do I have? Look how big this man's head is. Boy, so funny.
Okay, thanks, Mahu. Rosalie, you want to pick it up?
Baba, you're
Yeah.
so funny.
From that day on, Baba freed Ghani from the common labor and engaged him in proofreading the manuscript of Upasni Maharaj's Urdu biography. As mentioned, no one was allowed to leave the manzil without Baba's permission, and no one could enter it either. As instructed, Ghani wrote a letter on the master's behalf to Professor Abdul Qadar of Elphinstone College in Bombay and handed the letter to Munshiji to deliver. Munshiji promptly delivered it to the professor. The letter simply said that Professor Qadar should not come to Manzili Mim unless he was sent for. On reading this, a surprised expression came over the professor's face, and Munshiji asked the reason. Qadar explained, I was about to go to see Meher Baba at 5 o'clock this very afternoon. I was wondering how I would get his permission to enter. So I decided to stand by the gates until I was allowed to see him. But now that his order has come, how can I go? Munshiji consoled him by explaining that it was best to wait until Baba called him. On 2nd October, Baba was in an exceptionally good mood all day. But when he was retiring for the night, he called Ghani and said, "I have a high fever." Ghani felt his hand and found the fever was slight, but his forehead and chest were burning hot. Baba said, "This is the second illness and quite different from the first." He was in much pain, complaining about aching knees and feet, and felt restless. He seemed delirious, muttering incoherent words as Ghani massaged his legs. Although the windows were open, Baba oddly complained of feeling hot. After some time, he complained of feeling cold. Ghani covered him with a blanket and was told to leave him alone. In the morning, the Mandali found this notice written on the board: "The whole night, fever was my strict companion. Now tell me, with sleepless nights, weakness resulting from the last illness, and fever, with all three combined, what hope is there for me to avoid the fatal illness which has already begun its attack?" Merwan. 3rd October 1922. During breakfast, Baba divulged that at night he had actually wept. As proof, he told the men to ask Gustaji, who had seen the tears flowing from his eyes. He said, "May my enemy never suffer the kind of night I suffered last night." Referring to his sickness in the afternoon, Baba remarked in the presence of Sadashiv Patil and others, "This is the third time during the last 8 years that I have actually shed tears and then gotten ill. The first 2 illnesses were a wound in my shoulder and then the dysentery at Ajmer. For the various members of my circle, I will thus have to die 28 times. And every time I will have to cry. But the subsequent illnesses will be lesser and lesser in severity. This fever is for you, Sadashiv, who always suffers from it. The first 2 sicknesses concern Gustaji and Baramji. The second group for whom I will have to suffer includes Ghani." After some time, Baba further stated in the circle, "Ghani's number is 7, and it is most significant because even after realization, the number is always with the perfect master. The next 3 to 4 illnesses will be somewhat severe, but the suffering will lessen thereafter." Listening to this explanation, some of the Mandali were wondering when Baba would have to suffer for them. Age knew that the avatar's every breath is for the benefit of all animate as well as inanimate things in creation. It is for this purpose he takes form on the physical plane. His universal work concerns everything in creation. He forms his circle of 122 persons, does his universal work through each circle member, and consequently suffers as he wipes out each circle member's sanskaras.
Footnote says, refer to Balkachuri age, Avatar of the Age, Meher Baba Manifesting, page 78 to 80.
Too bad we
Same
don't have it. What's the page again?
78 to 80.
78. Okay. Well, when Cassandra gets back, I'll refer to it. Later, while comparing worldly happiness with divine bliss, Baba explained, an ocean of worldly happiness is merely a shadow, not even a drop of a single small drop of the infinite ocean of divine bliss. It is for this reason that a Sadguru is called Sat Chit Ananda, Sat Chit Ananda, all knowledge, power, and bliss. After tea the next day, Baba played chess with Ramju. And though he played inattentively, he won. A discussion about the best chess player in the Manzil ensued, and Baba remarked, if I concentrate and put my mind in any game, I can defeat the best of experts or champions. Ghani inquired what Baba meant by concentrating and putting the power of his mind in it. The master then gave the following explanation. He who is a slave to his mind is an ordinary human being. He who has conquered the mind, but at the same time is overpowered by it, drowned in intoxication, is called by Sufis a majub. A wali or saint who has progressed toward the goal lives in the higher spiritual planes and controls the mind to some extent. The first case, slave to the mind, is of the worldly mind, and the second is of God, meaning the majub has a state of mind that has realized the truth. The wali or saint is in advanced stages of the mind and mental control, progressing toward realization of the truth. But the perfect master, Kutub or Salik, has quite a distinct state wherein he can enjoy and experience every condition of the mind whenever he wishes. Wow.
Footnote says, Salik is an Arabic word meaning pilgrim, traveler, or devotee, one who desires closeness with God and at the same time is also aware of the needs of life. The word is derived from salat, meaning favored by God.
For example, a perfect master is rarely required to put his mind into worldly affairs, but occasionally he has to do so for the sake of his circle members. For instance, the residents of Kamaltipura Lane, number 7, are King George's subjects. But does His Majesty know anything about Kamatipura, a Bombay slum? Whether such a place exists at all in his empire, far short of the individual residents of the locality. If, however, he wishes to know anything about Kamatapura, or even one particular resident of the place, he can be furnished with the necessary information in no time, either through the telegraph office, the post office, or the CID, Secret Service. Similarly, a perfect master can reach to the very source of anything and everything that he cares to know about. That is, concentrate the mind and put the power of his mind in it. But he seldom does it. The interest he seems to take in the things of this world, by word or deed, is simply offhanded. However serious that however serious his interests may outwardly appear, on such rare occasions, the mind that he, the perfect master, seems to use is the mind devoid of divinity. He simply does things as they occur to him at the time, almost mechanically, without thinking about it.
Okay, thanks, Rosalie. Michal, why don't you pick it up here?
Okay.
You want me to
I
finish?
Can I read the previous one because I didn't quite understand what he said.
Yeah.
Similarly, a perfect master can reach to the very source of anything and everything that he cares to know about. That is, concentrate his mind and put the power of his mind in it. But he seldom does it. The interest he seems to take in the things of this world by word or deed is simply offhanded, however serious his interest may outwardly appear. On such rare occasions, the mind that he, the perfect master, seems to use is the mind devoid of divinity. He simply does things as they occur to him at the time, almost mechanically without thinking about it. Through discourses,
What does, I'm sorry, devoid mean?
Devoid is that it has not,
Without.
there's nothing in it. Devoid is it doesn't
Oh.
have anything.
Seems
Yeah,
to
so-
use is the
So
mind.
he's using a mind not of divinity. He's just sort of using a mind, regular mind, but
Yeah.
it's not clear. That's why I wanted to
Yeah.
read it again. I see it's not clear.
How do you guys understand this part? He simply does things as they occur to him at the time.
You know
Almost
what?
mechanically
Hold
without.
the thought. Hold that thought. We've only got a couple minutes left. Keep reading and then we'll discuss it.
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Through discourses and also by reciting poems, the master would shed light on spiritual matters for the Mandali. The following ghazal was written by Baba during the early 1920s, translated many years later by Adi Sr. This world exists, but it is not your final abode. Turn your face towards God. How long will you live in this transient world? It is a testing ground of virtue and vice for you to experience. That's beautiful. Can you slacken not your effort in worshiping God? Look upon every breath as your last. You know not what will happen tomorrow, so be prepared today for the future. Conditions in the world have not changed, but marvelous have been the visitors to this world. From the garden of this world have departed millions of nightingales, beings, hundreds of thousands more will come and go. Atma, the soul, is one. Varied are the bodies indeed, like the many sons of one father cherished. Behold there, on the meadows of love, many a rider of variegated colors flourishes. With our adversity, there is no rest. In hardship and sorrow, in hardship and sorrow, be grateful and at peace. In distress, always keep content. Have patience, and at all times be at ease. Continuously washing your clothes is a waste of time. Instead, purify your heart with the thoughts of God divine. Behold, at the feet of one God in form, Every moment, hundreds of souls lie in sacrifice. Do not take forbidden intoxicants. Better to live a life of honor and esteem. Learn to live in the unique intoxication of the early morning love of God.
Mhm.
God is matchless, one in all. See him in your heart. See him also as the God manifest, the God concealed, the God within you, and the God without. O man, in your boast, you lost the status of an angel. Pride has reduced you to a devil. O Huma, in this world of passing show, behold, like you, innumerable players come and go. Wow. Once a stranger came to Manzilamin and narrated his long list of problems to Baba. He begged Baba to bless him and bowed to the master. After he had gone, Baba remarked, people coming to see me almost always ask me to bless them. These simple souls do not know that masters really neither bless nor curse anyone. The fulfillment of their worldly desires gained by approaching a divine personality is in direct proportion to the faith they manifest towards him, and their prayer are answered by the divine powers active around him. A perfect master works in the spiritual domain. Those on the plains can be said to bless, for it is their spoken word that brings about the desired result. When approaching a perfect master with the object of deriving material benefit, one would be better off requesting him for his curse, because because a blessing from him, if at all he gives it, is likely to uproot one's sanskaric links from his world surroundings with a view to making him one like the master.
Ah,
Okay, we're going to stop the recording here.